This time on this especially unique Past Deadline episode, we begin this week's news in 60 seconds. And after, Editor-in-Chief Isaac Ritchey will be taking my role during the interview to talk with staff reporter Andrew Mullin, editor Courtney Pedersen, and me about CMU's switch to Chartwells from Aramark. I'm your host, the other Ben Jodway, and this is Past Deadline, your behind-the-scenes look at Central Michigan life. Here's this week's news in 60 seconds. CMU had its highest surge in COVID-19 cases during the spring 2020 semester this week. There are now 39 new confirmed cases of the virus on campus. This comes right after CMU made the announcement that all students at CMU are eligible for the coronavirus vaccine. On Wednesday, 2 local restaurants in Mount Pleasant temporarily closed due to COVID-19 concerns. Green Spot Pub is closing for 2 days, and Summit Smokehouse will be closed until further notice. Multi-factor authentication, shortened to MFA, is being rolled out to students to add an extra layer of security to their CMICH accounts beginning April 5th. Staff and faculty are already enrolled in this service, but all students will be required to add MFA to their accounts by the fall 2021 semester. Read all these stories and more at cm-life.com. That was this week's news in 60 seconds. Time to hand it over to Isaac Ritchey.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Past Deadline. I'm switching roles with your usual host, Ben Jodway, for this episode. He is here with us, and we are joined by Associate Editor Courtney Pedersen and reporter, photographer, and podcaster Andrew Mullin. Thank you guys for joining me today.
Hello, nice to be here.
Be on the other end of things.
There we go. You get a little view from the other side, Ben. Little break for this week. So in December, the university announced that it was ending its 20-plus year stint with food provider Aramark, and it signed a 10-year contract with Chartwells. And we recently published 3 stories about the switch. Ben did a kind of a sidebar on the new franchises Chartwells was bringing in. Courtney wrote a column about their experience at EMU, experiencing Chartwells food. And Andrew did the overall story about the switch and kind of the decision that the university made. So to start out, Andrew, do you want to talk a little bit about the logistics of it and why CMU decided to go with Chartwells rather than Aramark for the next 10 years?
Yeah, sure. So I guess, first of all, a bit of background for people who don't really know much about the situation. Aramark is a food provider that CMU's been working with since 1995. Is that correct, Courtney? Yeah, so mid-90s. This is as you said, Isaac, this is like a 25, 26 year, long relationship that these two companies have had with each other. I think Aramark and CMU signed a new contract and kind of extended their relationship in 2012, and that was supposed to be a 10-year contract, supposed to last until 2022. However, CMU decided to end that contract early and kind of started to seeing what else was out there, trying to bid for some stuff. Aramark did apply to continue to be CMU's food provider. I think it was probably another 10-year contract. I'm not exactly sure, but CMU said they provided a nice pitch for kind of staying with the university. However, ultimately, based on our conversation that me, Ben, and Courtney had with Cal Seeley, who's in charge of auxiliary services here at CMU, basically CMU went with Chartwells because Chartwells was willing to put more money into refurbishing and bringing in, new franchises here to CMU. They're willing to put a little more money into food for services. Remember correctly, the number is what was it, $14 million? Was that Courtney? She's giving me a nod. Yes, I'm going to say it is. So it was a lot of money that Chartwells was willing to put in, and I don't think Aramark was really pitching the same thing. So Yeah, that's essentially, to the boil it down to simplest terms, I mean, it's money. That's essentially why CMU decided to go with Chartwells.
And you kind of spoke about a little bit these franchises they're bringing in. I know, Ben, you did a little bit of research into some of the ones they've announced. I know they're maybe bringing in a couple more to campus, but could you speak a little bit on that? These franchises, what can students expect from those?
Yeah, so when we talked to Cal Seeley, he gave us a rundown on what is basically happening. A lot of it is going to be the Down Under food court. A lot of things are being changed, but we're keeping right now Einstein's Bagels, Witch, and the Starbucks in the UC. Everything else is going to be changed, and they'll mostly be in the Down Under. Some won't. But in the Down Under, we're going to have Slim Chickens, and that's the national franchise from Arkansas. Freddy's Frozen Custards and Steak Burgers, which is another national franchise that I think has a location in Grand Rapids, if I'm not mistaken. The Paper Lantern, which is a Chartwells brand, and Shake Smart, which is another Chartwells brand restaurant. Those are all going to be in the UC. And then you're going to get two local eateries. We don't have confirmation on what those are going to be yet. One is going to replace Java City, and I think the other one is Courtney. Is that going to be the health professions building?
So
Or do we not know where that is?
the health professions building is going to get a coffee and tea shop to replace that CM Brew thing
Yeah.
that they currently have. And the pizza place was a little confusing of what they were doing, because he mentioned delish, but I know that the sushi place is going to be replacing Delish, the pizza place, in the market. So I'm not 100% sure where the new pizza place will be going, but it'll be somewhere.
Yeah. So that's what we have right now.
I know they were also looking. Sorry if you don't mind me interjecting, Ben. But if I remember correctly, when we took Cal, you also kind of talked a little bit about the Down Under food court and about how they were kind of looking to replace that. Can you give us kind of any more, or at least refurbish it in a way? Can you give us any more information on that, Ben?
So it is a little up in the air what it's exactly going to be, but we know that it will be basically. I mean, there you see the sign in the Down Under. It says it's going to be total renovation. While Cal said it was mostly going to be a lot of signage, one thing we might see in the far future is a meal exchange program. So that means how you swipe into the cafeteria, or you can swipe in and pay for the eateries. Because right now, I think you have to pay with real money. I don't even think you can pay with Flex. If you can pay with Flex, it takes up a lot of Flex dollars to pay. So it's unpopular, and Cal Seeley's goal for the university, they said they want to bring more people to the Down Under, because not many students go there. So that was the central focus of what's been happening with the franchises.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you guys actually were able to experience at least the cafeteria aspect of Chartwells, right? Could you, Courtney, talk a little bit about that? Going down to Eastern Michigan University, who also their food provider is Chartwells, the one we'll be having for the next 10 years. Maybe not us as students, but future students will be having for the next 10 years. Could you talk a little bit about that experience, Courtney?
Yeah. So I know I was really curious on going down on the food, just because Chartwells is such a big brand in the public school system in Michigan. So I was thinking it would be that crappy square pizza we'd always get, or rectangle pizza they'd have in the cafeteria, that type deal. But Chartwells, it's Chartwells Higher Ed, so it's a kind of a different part of the company. It's still connected in some way, but so we wanted to find places in Michigan that had it, and we know that Oakland and Eastern both do. So we all we took our last wellness day, one of our wellness days, it was March 10th, and we drove on down there. And I think the thing it was a little hard to find it, I would say. But once we got there, it was like the atmosphere was a lot different just because it's smaller universities. That was something we had to like keep in mind because they have like a lot more commuter students than we do.
Mm-hmm.
But when we walked on in, it was like it had a really like chill atmosphere. Like it was like we got there like 12:30 and like no one was there really. But we got our food and stuff, and there were some employees who were just very like kind. Like, not to say ours aren't, but like they're like some of their like big employees, I guess. Like one of the guys was like a director of something, and the other was like one of their executive chefs. And we like the director like was like joking with me while I was in line, like because I was like, can I have a root beer? And he goes, beer? We don't serve beer here. And then one of the other students was like, I wish you served beer. And it was kind of this whole like joking thing. So it was like a very welcoming environment. Like I didn't really talk to anyone in lines in the cafeteria. Like, so it was in fresh or anything. So that was just really interesting to me. But then we sat down kind of in like the corner and we were trying our food and we're like, wow, like this is a little bit better. And we're like recording it. And the same two guys come and sit like near us, like obviously like not next to us, because like COVID, but they come and like sit kind of near us and they like saw us recording and they're like, what are you guys doing? Are you working on a project? And we're like, actually, yeah, kind of. And he's like, oh, what's it for? Like what class or something? And we're like, actually, like we don't go here. Like we're from TMU. And they were really open, which was just a weird vibe to have in the cafeteria in general, in my opinion. Like I haven't like in our cafeterias, I never like experienced that. But in the food, I would say the food was it wasn't like a lot better. Like it's cafeteria food. That's what you have to like remind yourself. It's like no matter what, but like they definitely had like some better options. Like Ben had their chicken and he was like, wow, this is actually seasoned. He was very impressed that they had seasoned chicken. And like, I liked their pizza because it wasn't like thin and like floppy like ours is sometimes, or most of the time. And I would just like, then like their cantaloupe and honeydew I got was like ripe, like crisp when you bite into it. And ours is always kind of mushy. So it was like little things like that I think like made it like better. And to add on to it, when we were doing research, they do a lot of really cool like events and activities to celebrate like national days and stuff. Mm-hmm. So then after we ate in that cafeteria and talked to people, we went over to their other cafeteria type thing that's connected to their other quad of dorms. And that one is more like, it kind of looks like either like
it's like the down under, basically.
Yeah.
It's like the down under, but it kind of looked like more like a mall food court or something. But when you go on in there, like you can use meal exchanges. So like there was like they have a Chick-fil-A, and then two like I think they're like Chartwells brand things. Like one was like subs and stuff, and then I don't even remember what the other one was, and then a Starbucks. But you could they were able to do the meal exchanges, which I think is really cool. And I know
that's something that CMU, Ben, you said, are working on getting on our campus, but some of these things might take a little while.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be an immediate change, right?
So the meal exchanges, I know that the meal plans are the same, that like the prices and everything are the same as they are this year. And then they're looking at like changing like the amounts of like swipes and like obviously like how much they're going to charge for like food stuff within the next year. And I think within that they'll be looking into the meal exchange. Which I think is definitely a really good option, and it will be interesting to see if they do bring that to campus.
Andrew and Ben, do you guys have anything that stood out from your experience at EMU tasting the food? I know you all tried to have a little bit different experience, try as much as you want, as much as you could. Courtney, do you have one more experience?
Yeah, I forgot like the biggest thing, the desserts.
Yes.
Like that's literally what my article is titled. Like it's like just desserts. Like I think that's a big thing that like here at CMU, everyone like talks about how the desserts aren't good. Like that's just like a big thing I hear because like as college students, like we're away from our houses. So like you're like, yeah, I can eat dessert as much dessert as I want. Like my parents aren't here, you know? So the dessert here is usually really not good. But they actually have really good dessert at Chartwells. And when we talk to students, that's like the one thing all the students mentioned was the good dessert.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's definitely like a big thing to like mention just because like the dessert was good. Like Andrew liked it so much he ate it with his hands. Like
Well, that was more because I didn't have utensils with me, but yeah, I ate a Boston cream pie with my hands. It was very messy.
it was like pizza.
Huh?
He was eating it like pizza.
Well, how else was I supposed to eat it? This frosting all over it. But
Well, it was worth it. It was worth it. That's what you guys.
yeah, no, it was
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
I mean, it's probably a little bit better because I know CMU here has their own Boston cream pie, and I think theirs was slightly better. But yeah, I mean, just to kind of echo what Courtney said, you know, it was really interesting talking to students at EMU. Well, I spoke to mostly freshmen there, and think one of the consistent things I kept hearing was desserts are really good. You know, which not everything they said was glowing though. I remember one. So a quote that stood out to me quite a bit. Well, it's not really a quote. I don't have it word for word memorized, but I spoke to this one girl, and she said that because I think they said she regularly goes to EMU's cafeteria or the food court area that Courtney called me just mentioned. It's called the Eateries. She said she regularly goes to those places, and she said, "Yeah, I can order like the same thing every day. Yet I feel like I'm getting a different meal based on quality, portion size, whether it's like burnt or not, whether it's not." Like she's like, "Yeah, it's like the actual like food isn't terrible from what they told me, but consistency of the execution almost seems to vary." Seemed to vary with them. I think she had a friend next to her who echoed the same stuff. You know, so I don't know. Take that for what you will. I mean,
yeah, that's good to know because you know you had a pretty good experience, and from that, somebody saying that you guys can think that you know it's consistent. You just didn't get them on a good day, so that's kind of reassuring. Ben, did you have anything?
Or maybe we did get them on a good day, and you know,
yeah, I mean.
So I mean, I don't know. Like again, I spoke to other students. They just said, "Yeah, it's fine," but I think other people just simply say, "Yeah, I just don't really eat there very much. I go out." You know, I mean, so you do hear some similar things with Aramark, but like Courtney said, just based on my experience, I'd say when talking to students, from what I had, I'd say it's just kind of the same thing that we got now, but maybe slightly better. I think the salad bar at EMU needs some work, but the pizza was fine. Yeah, I don't know. That's about as much as I have to say.
Andrew forgot to mention that the salad bar didn't have bugs though. And for Andrew, that's a big thing.
Well,
you know?
well, yeah. So if you don't know what she's referring to, I wrote an article a few years ago about Aramark here at CMU that was inspired from me eating a bug sandwich. It wasn't actually a salad. It was I put some lettuce on like a sausage sandwich or something. It had like a bunch of aphids inside there. And when I saw one crawling my plate, being a journalist, I didn't get grossed out. I was just more or less curious and wondering, maybe I need to write about the cafeteria. And so yeah, Chartwells, you didn't give me bugs, so I guess you guys got. for my money, if you're not going to make me another bug sandwich, I think you definitely had an Aramark there.
And you didn't have any bugs in your food, right? When you were
No, I did not have any bugs in my food, thankfully. I just had nicely seasoned chicken for the most part. But to echo some of the student stuff, I spoke to some students, and a lot of them were echoing like they really preferred the eateries over the cafeteria food. I believe. I just lost my thought. We were talking to the cafeteria manager while we were eating, And he said, I completely lost it.
Are you talking about how he said that Chartwells was like the best of a bad, like he said it was
Best of a bad situation is what he said. Is that what you're thinking of, Ben?
No, but that is a good point, that they thought it was the best of a bad situation, which is an interesting way to look at a whole new company coming in.
And that situation being having to privatize food service at university. So,
well, I mean, I guess that's why these franchises that are coming in with Chartwells are so important then. I know the Down Under food court, I mean, none of the brands were recognizable. I mean, not that the chicken, what's the chicken place?
Slim Chickens?
Slim Chickens or Freddy's is that, well known, but at least they have a better reputation than some of the places in the Down Under.
Website.
I think, if I'm inserting my opinion here, I think students are just going to appreciate a refresh at this point. So it's kind of encouraging, should be encouraging for students to hear about your guys' experience. So does anybody have anything else before we kind of wrap up this episode?
I mean, none of us had heard of the Freddy's, but like when I mentioned the names to Austin and Michael, the sports editor and the managing editor, they freaked out when I said Freddy's. They're like, "Oh my god, we're getting a Freddy's!" Yeah, they did that weird like boy thing where they jumped up and like high five. Like they were so hyped about it. So I think that's a good thing. So
yeah, who doesn't like a good milkshake?
Yeah.
Good milkshake and a steak burger. So
you don't have to walk all the way over to Five Guys now to get that. You can just walk over to Down Under or whatever it's going to be called.
Use Flex.
Yeah.
Don't you have to pull out your debit card. You can just use Flex. So, well, if nobody else has anything, I think we can wrap up. Thank you, everybody who's watching. Thank you guys for being a part of this conversation. For those listening, you can, of course, visit cmlife.com to read our coverage about the switch from Aramark to Chartwells. And then make sure to follow us on social media for more coverage of the CMU community. So until next time, until Ben gets on and is the host again, fire up.
You've been listening to Past Deadline, a production of the CM Life Podcast Division. Every story referenced in this episode can be found at our website, cm-life.com. To keep up with us, follow us on social media at Central Michigan Life on Instagram, at CM Life on Twitter, or like and follow Central Michigan Life Facebook page. I've been your host, the other Ben Jodway, and this has been Past Deadline. Until next week, so long and stay informed.